Hello! First thing, you've probably seen already that I have started editing my dolly inventory videos where I show you all my dolls and talk about each of them. And I have posted the first one, and I am working on editing the next one. I record them all at once, and I record them in chunks of 10 dolls. So each one I have to, first thing I do is I go through and I edit out all the swapping dolls and trying to get the dolls to stand and moving the camera around to get the doll's head in the center of the frame. And then I go through and I play the video. Like I said, I'm doing this with super budget. I use Windows Movie Maker, which is a no-cost program, and I use Audacity to record the narration while I'm watching it in the Movie Maker, and then I go back and I import the audio from Audacity into Movie Maker, and then I save that all together, and then I open it up, and then I start editing out the silences and stutters and weird things. And then I go through my ridiculous library of MIDI songs that I've been messing with for like the last 25 years, maybe not quite that long, and I figure out which songs I can use for background, and I record that in Audacity, and then I merge that in with the video and the dialogue. And I am still figuring out what I'm doing. Like, I've had someone say, can I please lower the volume of the music? Which, yes, I can, fine. Please give me feedback. Any little thing that you say, oh hey, could you change this or change that? Just little things. I am open to input. Thank you. Okay, so I have done a few more doll things since last time, and obviously I've gotten my microphone issues worked out. So the big project since last time was, well, I showed you when I made the jumpsuit pattern into the shirt dress by folding aside the crotch and making it shorter and sewing it up. And then I made this scarf to hide the fact that the pattern doesn't really match the front because I didn't have enough to do this pattern matching. But while I was making this, I got the idea and started wondering, what if I didn't cut off the leg length? What if I made it full length? Which made me think of, you know, the skirts from the late 90s, full-length skirts. So I spent a lot of time looking at Delia's catalogs. Not exactly for inspiration, more like for nostalgia. Although in the 90s I was too old for Delia's stuff, and I just didn't realize that it didn't matter that I was too old. So I didn't wear that. But anyway, what I did was I made this, which again, this is just straight up the jumpsuit pattern with the crotch extensions folded over. This one cut the full length of the legs. I did leave it open in the back, so there is a vent so your dolls can walk. But I think this turned out pretty well. I'm sure there are other variations. I know that I have seen Queen of Squids has used the jumpsuit pattern to make a jacket for a doll. So any variations that you come up with, I would love to see. I love seeing what people do with the patterns that I share. That's why I share them. But as I was sewing this, I was thinking, you know, I made this with 1/4-inch seams. My default patterns that I make, sewing patterns just for me, I make with 3/16-inch seams. In the old days, I had a sewing machine with a variable position needle, and I would move the needle all the way to the right, and then line the cloth up at the edge of the presser foot, and that would give me my 3/16 of an inch seam allowance. This sewing machine does not have a variable position needle, so instead I just use a, see, I'm doing this backwards, it's not going to be quite as easy as I usually do it. I don't plan this stuff much. I use a straight stitch presser foot like this. So when I line the cloth up with this edge, it still gives me a 3/16 of an inch seam allowance. So I decided what I would try to do is, excuse me, I have a cat hair in my eye. I think I got cat hair everywhere. But anyway, so I was curious what would happen if I took my jumpsuit pattern made for 1/4 inch seams that I shared with you and sewed those seams at 3/16 of an inch, because that's something I've used in the past to size patterns up and down slightly, is just change the seam allowance. And I wondered if making the seam allowance smaller to make the jumpsuit bigger would allow it to fit curvy. And the answer is yes, it does. This is my absolute standard jumpsuit pattern that I shared on Flickr, cut out at the same size that it's supposed to be printed, no sizing up or sizing down. All I did differently was make these shorter, this more narrow seam allowances. And 3/16 of an inch is still a pretty decent size seam allowance. There's not any danger that it's going to come unraveled because it's so tiny. Well, depending on your cloth. And the legs are actually proper full length. That didn't change any either. I just think it's cuter rolled up, but I will show you how they look. Again, the only difference I made on this was smaller seam allowances. So this pattern works for curvy, and like I said, you can do variations. You can just do the top of it and make a shirt for curvy. Of course, you can change the sleeve length, and you can make the skirt variations for her too. So if you want to sew clothes for curvy, you can work with this. Just take smaller seam allowances. And of course, if you're sewing by hand, which that is fantastic if you can sew by hand. I can't. My hand sewing is terrible. But I know some people sewing by hand, it just makes more sense to them. So of course you have perfect control of your seam allowance width. So anyway, curvy jumpsuit works. And then I just started, since I was changing clothes on those dolls, I started just messing around with some of my other dolls. And one of the things I did was I finally opened up that $5 Barbie style Nikki that I got a month or so ago on clearance. And I realized that, I used to have Janae sitting right here. She sits over there now. And the Janae head was on a Live, that's Alexis, the darker Live body from the Beach line. And it was not a great match because Janae, hello Chip, Chippy? Because Janae has an Integrity Toys, Integrity tends to have very unique skin tones that don't really match anything else very well. But it was an okay match for that Live body. But the body didn't really suit the head. So I decided it's not a great match for the Nikki skin tone, but the body suits the head a lot better. So I did some head swap, and I did not break the neck knob on the Live body, which if you have much experience with swapping Integrity Toys heads, you know they can be rough on neck knobs. Anyway, and here she is on the Nikki body with bendable ankles. And I think it's a pretty good match. I even like how long her neck is. I'm usually picky about long necks on dolls, but I think, again, Janae always has more of a high fashion look to her, even though she's obviously not high fashion when she's in my doll collection. But I think this body suits her pretty well. The color match is not perfect, but it's better than I thought it would be. So here she is. Of course, there are pictures on my Flickr. There are always pictures on my Flickr. Even if they're not on my Flickr, as I'm making the video or as I post the video, they'll be there soon. But these are already on the Flickr. The neighbor's starting the truck. I don't know if you can hear that. If you can, I apologize. And then first I thought I would do a head swap because I realized that Moana head, well, no. A doll head I've had for a while was from this little souvenir doll from Hawaii, probably from the 70s. Very cute head, terrible original body, very small head. So her darker skin tone and her smaller size has made her a challenge to find a body to match. I was messing around and I discovered that the skin tone matches that Liv body that she had had pretty well, but the size is all wrong. And then I started looking around and I wondered if the Moana head would match the Hasbro Moana that I repainted. Moana, not Moana. Sorry. I understand that I butcher other languages. I'm sorry that I do it, but I do understand that I do it. I'm trying to get better, but you know, I just want to talk so much. Anyway, the Moana head looked like it would match that Liv body really well, and even proportionally. And then I could give that little smaller head to the Moana body. But in the end I decided that I wanted to keep the Moana head on the original Moana body, even though I have repainted it. But I wanted to change her clothes. So here she is. I gave her some socks too. There's plenty of room in these shoes for socks. Thrifted a skipper shirt that fits her pretty well. I thrifted this skirt too. Yes, my dolls wear as much thrifted clothes as I wear. I don't know who the skirt is from though. There's some stretch to it. It's very tight on Barbie. So I haven't tried it on Liv. It could be a Liv skirt. It's a little stretchy on her. And this cardigan is from, again, Love to Knit Doll Clothes on Etsy. It's one of the skipper size cardigans, and I would wear this cardigan. So there she is. She looks like she's ready to go to school. So that was a couple days of doll stuff. And then on Sunday, one of my husband's, hello Chip, wargaming acquaintances was over, tabletop gaming. And they were taking, they took a break and asked if he asked if I had any spare homemade Barbie sized clothes sitting around. And I did not say it to him, but my response was, why would I have any spare clothes just sitting around? Although it's true that I do sometimes make doll clothes I decide maybe I don't like that much, and I will give them to friends, but I almost always give them to people pretty quickly. They don't just sit around. So I said, no, not really. But you guys aren't done gaming, so I could probably make some stuff. He explained he wanted to give this to his nieces for Christmas. And so I started sewing things. And first thing I made, I realized that the way I sew stuff really isn't kid-friendly. The cuffs were a little tight. You had to really wiggle the hands through it. The opening in the back was a little narrow. You had to, basically if the doll's arms didn't bend, you wouldn't have been able to get them into the sweatshirt at all. So I set that aside and I made another one that was a little looser, a little more kid-friendly, and I made a matching skirt. And I thought, okay, those are fine. Then I started working on the next thing and didn't really like it, and I made several things that hadn't worked before and I was getting kind of frustrated. I also had been awakened at 4 o'clock that morning by a cat, and I hadn't gotten back to sleep, and by then it was about 6:30 at night, and I also hadn't been on the computer that day, and I had PMS, so I was not happy. And I showed him what I made, and this guy's notoriously hard to impress, so I had no idea if he liked it, so I assumed he didn't like it, which made me feel even worse. And so eventually it comes out that the next day he decides, don't worry about it. Basically, he didn't realize, one, that I wouldn't just happen to have unused doll clothes lying around, or two, how much... Chippy! 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 Come on. Come on. Anyway, he might not have realized how much effort it would take to make things. Also, I'm freaking out because I don't know anything about these kids. Do they want fluffy princess clothes? Do they want fancy dresses? Do they want everyday clothes? Do they want long sleeves and pants? Because when I was a kid, I treasured long sleeves and pants for my dolls. I had one coat. It was not made by Mattel, it was off-brand, but I treasured it. It was white, it got grimy fast, but I was so happy to have that one coat. And then when I got Day to Night Barbie's blazer, that treasured, because long sleeves and layers. So anyway, and of course he has no idea what these kids want either, because to him it's just Barbie clothes or Barbie clothes. What do you mean there's different body? Because he said they were hand-me-down, probably hand-me-down dolls that they would have too. So I'm freaking out, and husband points out that I overloaded this guy with information. And husband did later say that he no longer tells people that I sew because he doesn't want things like this to happen, which I greatly appreciate. He also understands that if he said they sew and they said, oh, could she sew this thing for me or alter this thing for me? Or he knows that he could say no and be absolutely true, but they might say, what do you mean? No, let's ask her. It's like, anyway, so I had spent a few hours sewing things that I had not planned to sew. So by the end of the day, I had them though. That include this, which I'm not happy with. Chip. I'm still not good at sewing really stretchy knit things. Hello, Chip. Without stretching them out too much on the edges. That's why I like to put on ribbing on the edges of things, because that kind of binds and holds it. So this actually will fit curvy. And I'd started this. Hello, Chip. And again, this is not really the style of my dolls, Chippy, but it's finished. This is the outfit I sewed and actually thought would be good for kids, that he looked completely unimpressed with. What do you see, Chip? So, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. I'm not sure if I will keep it for my dolls or give it to friends or put it on Etsy, because I don't know if there's really a lot of demand on Etsy for Barbie clothes. I might put some sort of applique or decal on the front, or freezer paper graphic. So there's that. The thing, Chip, that I made that made me realize that it's not going to fit on dolls unless you know what you're doing, not kid-friendly, was this sweatshirt, which I used this really stretchy blue for the cuffs and neckband on this one because it's really stretchy. This white t-shirt material is not terribly stretchy, so it goes onto this body just fine because the hands, because I know what I'm doing. And the other thing I had been starting to work on that day is leggings. I shared this legging pattern. I'm going to put it on Flickr, of course. A leggings pattern that I had scanned my normal leggings pattern, and again, my own patterns have 3/16 inch, goodbye Chip, seam allowances. So I just scanned this straight into, scanned it and put it right in my illustration program and just traced it, and then just put a 1/16 of an inch contour around it and put it up for people to try. I said, here you go, I haven't tried it, but it should work to make 1/4 inch seams. And it does if your cloth is stretchy enough. This cloth is just on the border of being stretchy enough. It fits this slightly slimmer gymnast body a lot better than a more modern belly button body. So that another one that I had sewn with that pattern is this, which this is perfect. This is so stretchy, although what is this in the bottom? Is that a pop seam? No, it's just, sorry. It's just, or is it a pop seam? Oh, it is a pop seam. So I'll have to touch that up. Anyway, this is super stretchy, like knit, lacy type. This even stretches enough to fit on the curvy body. However, I am going to try to actually develop this pattern to fit curvy. I have traced it out. I have not sewn this up and tried. You see, there's no pinholes in it yet. But I'm going to see if this works for curvy, and if it does, I'm going to trace it up in my illustration program and release this for people too. So right now, the pattern that I have released works much better if you have super stretchy cloth. I have found a really good source for cloth stretchy enough for leggings is Leggings. But what I do, I am not a fan of buying clothes to use for cloth, because I believe that the clothes are better off used as clothes as far as I'm concerned. I don't mind if other people do it. I know it's a very popular thing to do. My exceptions are if the clothing is damaged, by all means turn that into doll clothes, because if there's a stain or a rip or a run or a tear, chippy, then it's not really usable as clothes anymore. Use it for doll clothes. And for leggings, what I like to do, and this also works for this sweatshirt pattern I have shared, is infant leggings, baby leggings. Because, at least with my experience with a child, it's a good idea that most of the babies might not agree with. And also, it's not uncommon, they put it on the baby once, and it gets a stain. So you find an otherwise fantastic pair of little, and also there's not a lot of waste. You just buy this little thing, and if you hit it on the right day at a thrift store or a yard sale, you can get it for 99 cents or less. And it is perfect stretchy leggings material, and it's a lot of times really cute, small prints, and lightweight, and they're great for dolls, and you can work around the stains. And sometimes you can even use the hem itself instead of having to sew the hems. You just cut it with the hem, the bottom of the pattern on the hem of the leggings, and sew it up. And anyway, that's my tip. Use baby leggings, because babies don't really like wearing clothes. I know some do. I'm just generalizing from my own. So, that is, I did sew another pair of leggings from even less stretchy cloth. Didn't fit Barbie's at all. Fits Momoko just fine, so I went ahead and dressed her in the leggings and a simple dress I made a few years ago, and this Barbie cardigan from Modern Circle, One Modern Circle Melody, which is a good basic Barbie piece, and a quick bias cut scarf I made, and Barbie flats. So those were my sewing adventures, unintended, on Sunday. Another thing that I plan to sew for dolls in the future is, if you can see my label on here, is my witch hats. I had a request from someone on Etsy, and I will get to that hopefully soon. And I'm just wondering if other people would like just little simple witch hats. They fit Barbie and Monster High, and they have elastic straps or ribbon ties depending on my mood. I know most of the people in my doll group don't have a lot of money. That's why we love thrift dolls. That's why we like do it yourself. But I'm still wondering if anyone would be interested in me putting some little silly witch hats for dolls up on Etsy. I would love to do it if there's an audience, if there's people who might buy it. Yes, I hear you, Chip. So that's something to think about. And then I did go thrifting this week, because people, it's just a few days until Christmas. The crowds are dying down pretty much everywhere. I also went to John Fabric, and took my 50% off coupons, which I'm sure they were hoping I would buy cloth or something big, and I bought a couple packs of Velcro. And then I went from that Joann to a Chip. Across the road from there, more or less, is a thrift store, and I went and looked around, and it's very picked over. But I did find this guy, an Aaron Carter doll, and I don't know much about these dolls. I just checked under his shirt real fast to make sure that he wasn't a singing type doll, and he's not. I do have another boy celebrity doll that has singing. I have taken the batteries out, and I really want to open them up and get all those parts out, because it's just completely unnecessary. But having male bodies is nice. He does have a decent sculpt, and nobody really remembers who Aaron Carter is anyway these days, as far as I know. So I might just repaint him instead of giving someone else this body. So there's a thrifted dude. And then today, one last huzzah at the thrift store, because I'm going to try to limit my thrift store visits because I have a lot of stuff. Again, I'm looking at piles of cloth that I can use to sew more projects. So yes, I got more cloth today. I didn't need it, and so no more cloth in the near future. And I still have a box full of doll heads and doll bodies and doll projects. But I went in anyway, and I looked around, and there was a bundle of 3 dolls for $1.99. One of which was this, you know, blow-molded, hollow body Barbie clone with the rip-off of the Generation Girl head sculpt, which I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this, because I'm not a fan of the Generation Girl sculpt, but she can be fun to repaint and reroute, although hopefully I will do a lot of reroots this year. I love the finished look of a reroute. I've just mentioned that my hands can only take so much of it, but I have a lot of dolls I want to reroute. So, clone quality. We'll see. I might just redonate this doll, although I always feel horrible when I see dolls like this in thrift stores priced like she was a real Barbie. But the reason I did pick up that pack was the other 2 dolls, one of which is Pocahontas. I'm probably influenced by Tiffy's Pocahontas and Nakoma and Kokum that she's managed to pick up, and she has made look great by saving their hair. I don't know if I'm going to try to save this doll's hair or if I'm going to reroute her with a fantasy color or try to thin this out so she can just have 2 normal-sized braids. But Pocahontas. And then the other doll in the pack was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Yellow Ranger Trini, Bandai. And you might remember I have thrifted in the past just the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers body. That one was from Pink Ranger Kimberly, because I also found her suit and helmet, and I think one of her guns, in the loose toy bin that day, just not her head. So I figure somebody'd probably taken Kimberly's head and put it on a Barbie-sized body. Sorry, my rulers are clicking and it's annoying. And so I was surprised to find this doll with the head, but I'd used the body before for another, since it has the old clone type neck knob, but it is overall a Chikara Ika style body. I have used this. I appreciate this body for the Lika knockoff that it is. So I will use the body for something. I will get the head on another body, maybe. Or maybe I will leave her as a kid on this body, I'm not sure. But it's always nice to have another head sculpt that's not Barbie. So those are the dolls I thrifted. And then cloth. First thing I picked up was this, which says Seikodo Corp on the side, and I got home and looked it up, and these are called barcode cats because they have barcodes for whiskers. Yeah. But I also, I thought maybe I would make the witch hats, since those are like $5 each. Not a big expense, but I also have this dress style, which I generally make for smaller dolls like Blythe or Monster High. But obviously you can see I have it for Barbie. This is also a $5 dress style, so I thought I could make a few of those. I call them my Winx dresses because my old Dolls Ahoy logo has a wink in it. So I thought I could make some dresses featuring these kitties for $5. Maybe. And then I also found this, which is... This is the full width. It's only 36 inches wide, which means that this is vintage. They stopped making cloth in 36 inches wide sometime in the late 60s, early 70s. So I thought this was a great color combination, even before I noticed it was vintage. So there's that. And then the last piece of cloth I bought is just so shiny. So, well, kind of loud, kind of tacky. And this could end up as doll clothes too, maybe, if anyone's interested. There's a little over 3 yards of it, so it could end up as me clothes and doll clothes and who knows what else. And, like I said, I would be interested in selling more doll clothes for sale if I thought people were interested in buying the stuff I make. I know I tend to like to make Barbie clothes, and I know there aren't a lot of people buying fancy homemade clothes for Barbie. And like I said, I know that a lot of the people in my group of dolls people are not rolling in the money either. That's why we like thrift dolls, that's why we like do it ourselves, that's why we like sewing ourselves. I know not everyone can sew though. But I also thought if people wanted me to make jumpsuits, whether for Barbie size or for Kirby size, I could do that. I could put those up for sale. They would be a little more, they would be more than $5. Not sure how much they would be. I would have to time myself. I don't charge for materials, I charge for time. Even though I probably should charge more, but like I said, and I have been saying, I'll always say, my group of people, we're not big spenders, but I would like them to spend things a little bit because that's what making money is about. But I don't like to charge a lot because then people won't buy them. I know I'm starting to ramble, and I am out of things to talk about, so I think I have a better video this week than last week, because it's not me being angry about my computer. And it is me being enthusiastic about dolls and sewing, even if it was sewing I didn't want to do for somebody I didn't know I'd be sewing for and who told me to never mind in the end. But I have more doll clothes because of it. So, holiday coming up. We'll see what I can make. I did sew a human size thing. I sewed this jacket for my child. I don't have it with me because he's wearing it. It's like periwinkle knit. It's a hoodie. But he picked out a bright red zipper to close it. So I put red accents all over it. And like I said, he's wearing it, so he likes it. So I'm going to try to be sewing more human-sized stuff, not just doll stuff. So hopefully that won't take away from having doll things to show you in the future, but it might. If it does, I apologize. I know you're here for the dolls, and I'm trying to bring dolls to you. Thanks.